Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 31 of the Journey Running Podcast, where the goal is to help you run farther, fuel smarter, and develop character through trail and ultra running. I'm your host, registered dietitian, coach, and ultra runner Stefan Schuster. As always, I'd like to use this moment as a reminder to folks that Journey Running is more than just a podcast. It is also my running and nutrition coaching business. So if you or anyone you know is looking for a coach or a registered dietitian, or both, to work with, you can reach out to me on my website, journeyruncoaching.com, or via email at journeyrunningsllc@gmail.com. I am looking forward to onboarding a few more athletes at the end of March here and as we go into April. Also, it'd mean the world to me if you could take a moment to rate, subscribe, and review the show. Huge thank you to everyone who's taken the time to do so already. It really does mean the world to me, and it does help more eyes and ears get on the Journey Running Podcast. One thing I'm trying to do a better job at is getting some more reviews for the show. So if anyone is willing to take the time to do so, please reach out to me, and I'd love to send you. I have a few more Journey Running buffs that I will send out to you as a thank you. All right, so I have a few show notes for this week. First up is a pretty big update that I probably should have put up on the podcast maybe a month ago or so, but I wanted to let you all know that if you are looking to work with a registered dietitian, but you're worried about cost as a factor, I want you to know that you can actually speak with me now through the use of your insurance. I don't accept it directly. I actually accept insurance through a platform called Nourish, which is essentially the nutrition version of BetterHelp. For those of you who are not familiar with BetterHelp, think of BetterHelp as a platform that connects patients online to therapists, right? So Nourish, essentially, it does the same thing, but for dietitians. So if you'd like to see me through Nourish, I will put a link in the show notes to my profile where you can sign up to meet with me. I do have a few notes, though, on if you decide to do this. First up, please do use my referral link because I do make a little bit more money through the Nourish platform than if you were to just look my profile up on the Nourish website. So please do use my referral link if you're going to look me up there. Also, right now, my schedule through Nourish is severely limited. I am only available on the Nourish platform on Thursdays, so if you schedule to see me through their website, you're not going to see all of the actual availability that I do have. So please do reach out to me directly. I have greater availability than just Thursdays. I just don't like how the Nourish calendar works. So yeah, if you want to meet with me a different day of the week or a different time, we can certainly figure that out. Lastly, I should mention, if we're going to meet through insurance, there are some greater rules and regulations that we have to follow. The most important of which is I can't work with every single person in the country. I am based here in Colorado, but the insurance providers care about where you, the patient, resides, right? So certain states, they do require additional nutrition licensure, so state licensure. I'm not licensed in every single state. On the bright side, though, most states do allow you to see me through the Nourish platform. Just reach out to me directly and we can figure those details out together on a case-by-case basis, but I can work with most people in the country, which is a good thing. All right, so next up, I wanted to let folks know that by the time this episode comes out, the Leadville 100 YouTube video will finally be up. Finally putting that up super duper late, even though I ran the race over 6 months ago now. If you're not aware, the Journey Running podcast itself is posted to, yes, all of your favorite podcast platforms, but that also does include video formatting on YouTube where I post the podcast as well. So if you'd love to see mine and our guests' lovely faces, then you can, go on YouTube and watch the show while you're working or doing whatever. Also on YouTube, I should note that I do post quite a few vlogs of events that I run myself. Have a lot of videos up, including the Leadville one that I just mentioned, but I also have videos up of Western states. I have 2 Moab 240 YouTube videos up from 2021 and 2023. I believe my most popular YouTube video is the Moab 240 one I put up from 2023. But yeah, I also have a whole bunch of others, such as like the Never Summer 100K, San Diego 100, Mogollon Monster 100, Bear 100. There's a lot of really great race videos up, so feel free to take the time and check that out. I'd really appreciate it, and if you like what you see, don't forget to like and subscribe to the videos over there. Would really appreciate that as well. And also, I want to mention, like, if you do take the time to, like, listen to this podcast, and if you do take the time to, like, watch my YouTube videos, like, please do say hello to me at races or events if you see me there. On my end, it's kind of funny because, like, I just see the statistics on YouTube, for example, where it says how many people see your videos, and, like, that's cool. And I see the same thing for the podcast, but it's a lot more fun to be able to put those, a face to those numbers when people actually do take the time to come up to me and say hello. I really appreciate that, and it's very meaningful. All right, so let's get into today's episode, though. So today we're having on Josh Sprague. Josh is the owner and the founder of a few brands that hopefully most of you who are listening know. You should know if you're ultra runners, Orange Mud and Seven Clay. So this was a really fun conversation. It was awesome hearing Josh's journey from endurance and adventure running to becoming a business owner, his journey to creating Orange Mud and Seven Clay. He talks about how the industry has changed since he first got into the space, which is quite a lot. He also shares, quite a few stories or I should say just a few of what seemed like many stories, about his own personal adventures in this episode, which I thought were really cool. I really appreciated hearing those stories, and I know that you guys are too when you listen to this episode. So with that said, let's welcome Josh to the show, and let's get right into it. All right, Josh Sprague, welcome to the show. Josh, you are the founder and CEO of two companies, Orange Mud and Seven Clay, which are both, I would say, pretty big players in the ultra running gear space. So it's super cool to have you on the show. I'm super excited today to get to know you, your story about how you started both these companies, your journey to, becoming an entrepreneur, and just I'm really excited to learn about all the life lessons that you've come across in your entrepreneurial journey here. But before we get started, I want to hand the mic off to you to introduce yourself. Tell us any fun facts about yourself. What's your background as an endurance athlete? What got you into the technical industry of outdoor sportswear?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on. My name's Josh Sprague. I started Orange Mud in 2012, and I had the business Seven Clay in 2019, and we ended up getting into this space just because I hated handhelds and hated waist packs, and I wanted to have something that was more stable, more breathable, more durable, easier to manage from a fluids perspective, and that's really what got Orange Mud kicked off and years ago, and initially kind of focused on like triathlon and trail running space or marathon space, which is what I was designing it purposely for. It just happened to be trail runners took to it even more, and which is great because it was always my passion anyway. So, but yeah, fun facts. I don't like crickets at all. I think that they're nasty animals, and I'm not afraid of hardly any animal out there. But a cricket, like a rattlesnake, doesn't even bother me. It's not a big deal. But a cricket, I feel like they have these giant mandibles that can bite you. And I don't know if it's like, I had this giant grasshopper took a chunk out of my back when I was like 6 months old, and maybe it's the even though I know I wasn't cognizant of it at the time, maybe it's the stories that somehow translated that to a cricket. But like if you put a cricket in my hand, I tell you, it's the one thing I'm afraid of. And I like good food. Those are fun facts.
What's your favorite animal on the flip side of a cricket then?
Well, you know what? My freaking dog is, she's pretty cool.
Oh, we got the cameo appearance.
She's sleeping upside down right now. But, I would say the coyote has always been one of my favorite animals. I just think they're one of the most creative and intelligent creatures out there. And, of course, it's part of the dog line anyway. But, yeah, I'd say the coyote's probably my favorite animal.
So are you rooting for the coyote when you're watching Roadrunner, the cartoon?
I've always been the underdog, so that's a tough one because Wile E. Coyote is such a playful dude that, you know that he ultimately has a lot of other animals that he can prey on. So, yeah, no, I think I'm not rooting for him in that one. I think let that crazy bird go, man. He'll be fine, but go catch a bunny or something.
It's crazy. We were talking a little bit before we hit the record button, and I was running the Jackpot 100 about 2 weeks ago, and I've never really had any wildlife encounters during my races.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, every ultra that I've done up until Jackpot essentially was a mountain 100-miler or just, ultra in general.
Sure.
And before Jackpot, I had done like 1,400 or, including some Moabs, and never had any animal encounters. Jackpot is at this park just in Henderson, Nevada, and it runs around a lake a mile 85 times. And at mile like 80, I wasn't sure if I was hallucinating. I know I wasn't, but this coyote sprints across the trail, with just like the concrete path there, like, dude, 10 feet in front of me, just like going like 100 miles an hour, and I was like, what did I just see? And it was the closest I've ever come to an actual animal while I was running a race before. Maybe running in general. It was like, wow, why here?
Yeah, they're awesome, man. You know, they coyotes are. I mean, I've read a lot of books on them over the years. Even coyotes are fascinating. Like they actually control their population to the habitat that they live in, which I find fascinating. You know, like not like humans, right? Like we just keep having babies and it's fine, or we don't and it's fine. But you know, coyotes, if a family say was killed, you know, car ran over a family of them, in that population of that given area, it would hold 12 coyotes. The mom the next time might have 11 babies, you know, or another mom in the area. And it's a fascinating thing. They like self-regulate their population. If their population density is too high, then they'll just have maybe a baby. And I don't know, coyotes are they're really cool. And you know, I think a lot of people you hear like, you know, the coyote stole my baby type of thing, and I mean that may happen, but it's probably one of the most harmless animals out there that also clean up all the riffraff out there, aside from skunks and possums and all the other stuff. So
oh, man.
I grew up a country kid, and you know, it was always fun to see a coyote running on the prairie. It just seems illogical, right?
Yeah,
it's like a big dog. I mean, the 45-pound animal running out there just cruising along, having a good time.
Where'd you grow up, and where are you at now?
I grew up in Kansas, in eastern Kansas, but now we're in Liberty Hill, Texas. It's basically the edge of Austin. We're out on the fringe of Austin, but it's a cool spot here, and we actually have a ranch an hour north of here, and we've got plenty of coyotes and fox and pigs and deer and roadrunners. You might have saw roadrunners up there in Vegas, but yeah, we got all kinds of critters out here. Texas is kind of like Kansas. It's a bigger city next to it that we have versus growing up where I did. So it's a cool spot.
Yeah, I want to see a roadrunner really badly. I was crewing Badwater. It's coming up on a year ago now. And some people in our car saw one, and it sprinted away, and I missed it. And I never got to see one on the rest of the trip. I was disappointed.
They're awesome.
But
they're all over Texas. And you see them, you can just tell they have a cool personality. I wish they could talk, because they're always kind of running along. They'll look at you, they're like, what's up? And then they just always seem like they're on a mission to go somewhere. And you know, they probably don't have the biggest plan other than finding the next grasshopper to eat, but yeah, they're really cool birds. They're actually, I think, one of the neatest birds. I think it should be like the state bird of Texas, in my opinion. But
that's a good idea.
Yeah,
man.
So well, you come to Texas, we'll show you roadrunners. We got plenty. They're everywhere.
What was your journey to go from, you know, growing up in Kansas, being in Texas now? Like, what was your endurance journey like? How did you get into trail running, cycling?
Sure.
Yeah, just talk to me about like what that was like and how you got into everything, because I imagine that's really where your passion for creating outdoor sportswear came into fruition. Yeah.
So I mean, I grew up a country kid, and I didn't really, you know, trail running, you know, when I was a kid really wasn't much of a thing. I mean, I'm sure people were doing it, of course, but even trails, if you think about it, a lot of trails have really been built over like the last 30 years, you know, and it became a big thing in the 90s and just has continued. And you know, the mountain bike scene has really exploded with trails and of course trail runners too, but I think it's the piece that a lot of people maybe don't give as much credit to, is the mountain bikers often are the ones that have built some of the foundations, like IMBA and whatnot, have put a lot of time and resources into building trails. But anyway, when I was growing up, it was more about just hiking the creeks and in the woods, just because that's where I was, and there weren't any trails anywhere hardly. But I always enjoyed the remote aspect of just exploring and walking down a deer path or whatever that was going through the woods and running ridge lines and whatnot. But yeah, I ended up running cross country in high school, and that probably got my passion for running going. And I was decent, not great. My son just set the school record running the 5:27 mile, and I was like, dude, my freshman year is when I ran the fastest mile that I had. It was 5:40, and then I only got slower from there because I just got bigger. You know, I basically got my size now, and I never could run that fast again. But yeah, that's probably where it all started, is from the basis. But I moved out west when I was 22 to Arizona, and traveled all over, and I got into mountain bike racing and trail running just because the trails in Arizona were phenomenal, and it just was the gateway drug to really carrying into all the other sides of it, from adventure racing, mountain bike racing, trail, Ironman marathons, and just I used to be more of like a list completion guy, where I wanted to do a marathon, I wanted to do an Ironman, I wanted to do a trail run, I wanted to do whatever, and over the years it's become more of a destination based thing. Like, I want to go run that trail because it's amazing, or I want to go ride in that state because that trail is supposed to be epic. I've switched a little bit more to that. It's just a different list, I guess, but yeah, it really started, I guess, from cross country and just always enjoying the adventure aspect. Like, roads to me are not enjoyable. I don't like pavement on any level, and I spent a lot of time road running. I mean, I still run on pavement, but it's only like, it's like eating your vegetables sometimes. Like, yeah, I like it, but I would rather eat a Reese's peanut butter cup or a steak, and something different. So the trails to me are my Reese's peanut butter cup, my steaks, and running the roads is like eating some broccoli without any salt on it.
Nice. I like it. That's it's a good. You're talking to a dietitian, so I think that's a great analogy.
Yeah, for sure.
Where in Arizona were you at?
I was in Phoenix. Albuquerque, Tempe, Phoenix. I mean, I lived there 11 years, and nice. Arizona to me is one of the greatest places in the country.
Oh my gosh,
and,
yeah.
I mean, the trails are absolutely phenomenal. I lived always right by South Mountain, and South Mountain, I had rode and ran every trail in there, and bazillions of times. I mean, I used to ride 4 days a week, run maybe 5, and then we'd usually run a couple days a week there as well, and it was just my home base training ground. But from the Phoenix area, it was incredible. Phoenix Mountain Preserve, South Mountain, just incredible areas. And then you go up to Payson and Flag, Sedona. There's just so many incredible areas.
And the Grand Canyon is just...
the Grand Canyon too.
Amazing.
Yeah, we did stupid training things there. Like, we were training for a big adventure race, and I went up there with my buddy Jack and a couple other of my teammates, and I think we packed 80 pounds into our backpack and went down Kaibab and back up something, I forget now, it's been too long, but we were packing like 80 freaking pounds. But I packed water in my hiking backpack because I thought it was irresponsible and not the smartest idea. My buddy Jack packed log chains, so he had to commit the whole time, and going down alone was brutal. But then when we were coming back out, he was about to die. It was really funny. I mean, not necessarily die, but I mean, he was in a hard spot, and I think I waited for him to admit that he was wrong, and then I carried his pack for a while just to give him a break, and it wasn't even comfortable to put on. But I tell you, we had some fun time training in the canyon when we lived there, just to get that cold to hot, and then just that static go up for 11 miles or whatever it was on the main trail. Kaibab was awesome. So
yeah, oh man, and it's just so beautiful there. Like, what kind of racing were you doing back then? It sounds like Ironman, mountain biking, trail running. Like, what kind of events were what was like your favorite kind of events?
So when I lived in Arizona, it was really split between adventure racing and mountain biking. I raced all over Arizona, California, and Nevada. And it was an incredible amount of mountain bike races. I've done somewhere north of 300 mountain bike races, and I've done somewhere north of 100 adventure races. So
when you say adventure race, could you define that?
Yeah, so adventure race is trail run, mountain bike, kayak, all via map and compass, and maybe rope work and other disciplines too. But those were always the core three: is trail run, mountain bike, and kayaking. And it's just, those races varied. Most were 12 hours, 24 hours, and then multi-day races. And like I've raced up to 92 hours straight in adventure racing, but we 12 and 24 were kind of our core sweet spot, and then 2 or 3 day even is fun. Anything more than that is really brutal. But yeah, so that's where a lot of my trail running was coming from. When I started Orange Mud, I built it because of all the time staring at my teammates' backs and watching how packs moved and whatnot. I wanted something different, and I had this idea of how we could stabilize it based upon watching my teammates' backs so much and see where the movement was. But when I started this, I hadn't ran that many trail running only races. I mean, a lot of them were like 5-10 mile type of things. But again, I'm 48. I mean, I've been racing since 2001, I think, is when I started all kinds of marathons and whatnot. So it was more road racing at the time, paired with mountain bike racing, adventure racing. There just weren't as many trail races. Like now, there's a trail race every freaking weekend in probably every major city or around every metropolitan. But even back when I started Orange Mud in 2012, that was when it was still like when I go to the industry trade shows, even the retailers would be like, yeah, trail runners don't really buy much from us. We're only road runners. Or walkers, right? That come into running stores. But as time has gone on, that has changed. Trail running has become so prolific. But yeah, so it was really all the paddle, run, and bike were all the disciplines I spent a lot of time in, and Arizona was just ripe with amazing options to do all those.
Interesting. So was there like a particular moment when you were running with your friends where you realized that something needed to change in the industry that, put the spark in your brain that said, I got to start a company to fix this?
Yeah, for sure. Well, my break point was there was like the slow build. The slow build was racing and constantly hating our packs. Constantly being like, God, Arizona's so hot. Nevada is hot. And even a lot of places in California where race was hot. And so I was constantly just dreading some of the packs that I'd buy. They were so dang hot. But then a lot of them would rub the crap out of you too. And then a lot of times they just put so much just crap on them that was useless. I'm like, why are they using all this junk? So we go to REI and buy these packs, and we'd be chopping them up in the parking lot and modifying them before we even run in them because we knew they sucked out of the gate. But you had to just deal with what you had. And but especially in adventure racing, you have to carry a mandatory kit. Ultra running, some races are good about it, some not. Some will allow you to just run in handhelds, which to me is reckless, and it's dangerous, right? I mean, there's the subtle little things can happen that you could roll an ankle and all of a sudden slip off a cliff. You could be right there, knocked out, and not even know that. People wouldn't even know going by. And I'm amazed that a lot of races don't make you carry a little bit more, at least some baseline of like duct tape, a bandage, and a strobe light or something. I don't know, something. But yeah. But anyway, that's what adventure racing was always about. It was always about it's much higher risk. People get killed in a lot of the big races. Not often, fortunately, but it happens. You're out there, you're exposed, and whether on roads or in remote areas, and just the one wrong slip can dislodge a boulder and kill people. I mean, you're not on trails a lot of times, so you have to pack gear. And when you pack gear, bad packs really show themselves because they will flop all around, drive you nuts. So anyway, yeah, all that stuff is what was the slow build where I was constantly frustrated. But it was training for Ironman St. George that broke me because I despise waist belts. I just feel like I know that they cause GI distress, and when you're squeezing your gut, which is what a waist belt, most of them do poorly. Because you have to ratchet them so tight to hold that bottle securely, in the old ones anyway. And then handhelds, I never have understood because that's like running with a weight. If I want to lift weights, I'm gonna go lift weights, but I don't want to run with a 3 or 4 pound weight in my hand. And so with all those things, with all that time training for Ironman, I just hit a break point one day where I was just like, man, I hate all these. I just want something different. I just want a freaking water bottle and my iPhone 4, which is what was out at the time. So I built a pocket on the shoulder to put an iPhone 4. Now that you could put some phones there, but that quickly changed where I had to put pockets up front to be able to hold an iPhone because the dang phones got too big. But I designed iPhone 4 pocket on the left, and then on the right I had electrolytes and extra gels, which I used to use gels, and then the back room for keys, your cash for the beer garden after the race, and a credit card and driver's license is all you need, and that was the base of how it all came together, and 14 years later we're still kicking.
Dang, that's impressive. And I want to hit on that point that you made where, a lot of races have gotten a little bit better over the years at requiring mandatory gear. You probably remember that incident in 2020 in China where there was a freak storm that rolled in to a mountain race, and I forgot how many people died now. And immediately after that, I remember some Colorado races started requiring mandatory gear after that. And it's like, okay, we probably should have been doing this from the get-go, but it's good that like more event companies took note. But that is now that incident was now 6 years ago. People have short memories. There's a lot of new races, and there's a lot of new race directors, and there's a lot of new athletes who were not in the sport 6 years ago, and like they don't really think of this sport as an extreme trail running, at least, as an extreme sport. Adventure racing, maybe more people view it in like an extreme manner, but if you don't look at your sport as extreme, then I think people don't take the safety aspect as seriously. All it takes is something small, like you said. You sprain an ankle or break an ankle, and you're like a few miles away from an aid station in the middle of nowhere, and the temperature starts to drop because it's almost nightfall. All of a sudden, you're in like a really big predicament when most of us think to ourselves, because you feel like Superman when you're training for these things. Most of us just think, oh, no matter what, like I can always go 3 miles, but things happen.
3 miles can be a long ways late in a race.
Right?
It seemed like it was like 1,000. Like we had a race in Santa Barbara, and so you would think California, super chill, and I've had a few races there actually that have been crazy, from ice and crazy storms. But this one, it was like a 2-day race. I think it took us 38 hours, and we were at about 2 in the a.m. I was confused as to where we were, and I was a navigator, and I told my teammates, I said, man, we'd already ran forever and paddled forever, and we were on this huge bike leg for like, I don't know, 16 hours or something, 20, I don't remember. It was a long time, and we were descending down this mountain in the the small little Santa Barbara mountains, but I remember telling my teammates in this team from Mexico that was behind us. They were some of the funniest people I've ever met, and but I remember stopping at one point, and I was like, man, we have been descending a long ways. I'm pretty sure this isn't right, and I do not want to go to Santa Barbara, because that was like 1,500 feet lower than where we were, and I knew that we had to go across the canyon, but I couldn't triangulate to where we were. I lost my point of reference on the topographic map, and I was like, we need to stop and we need to sleep, and let's wait till sunrise, because I can look across this canyon and I know I can figure out where we are, and we kind of talked about it for a while, and the team from Mexico, they were like, nah, man, we just got to keep going. It's ahead. And I'm like, no, dude, it's not. I think it's across. And we missed our turn. And in this, it was at 3 a.m. that my teammates and I, we all agreed, all right, cool, we'll stop. And the team from Mexico, they're like, we're going down the mountain. We're like, cool. I didn't want to go down because I was worried we wouldn't be able to find water. And I knew we still had a giant amount of hours ahead of us. Well, we stopped, and we're in freaking spandex, right? We got like spandex and polyester shirt on, and it was the funniest thing is we pull off on this little, just get off the trail just a little bit, and as soon as I said, let's just take a nap for a little bit, we all got our safety blankets out. I ripped mine in two because I'd carried it a million times at races, and it was all dried out. If you ever opened up a safety blanket, I mean, they cost 57 cents at Walmart, and then you let it just fester in water and every sweat in your backpack and sugars forever. And then you open it out of the package. You got to be really careful because that thing is about as strong as a piece of toilet paper. And I ripped it into two, which was such a bummer because it was freaking cold. And it was only, maybe 45 or 50 out. And it was good enough that in movement it was fine. But as soon as you stopped and we're on a hill in the fog, which is another reason why I couldn't triangulate anything, it was cold as hell. I mean, it should have been, it felt like it was like 10, but it was, again, 45, 50, something like that. And when we'd already been racing at that point for, I think that was close to 20 hours in, I don't remember exactly what time we started, but I think it was before dark that day before, we were, your body's fatigued and your body isn't processing things right. It's thermally messed up. And I just remember laying down on the ground, and we didn't use our brains because, again, we were kind of tired. And we all laid independent from one another. We should have all cuddled, which would have been weird, but it would have been warmer. But I remember taking one piece and wrapped around my core and one piece and wrapped around my legs. And I was asleep in about 4 seconds, but I was still frozen in that 4 seconds, which felt like an hour. And I did nothing but shiver and sleep for a couple hours. Well, next thing you know, the sun comes up, and it's like 6:15 or something like that. And I look over and I see this other team in their aluminum pods like us, and I walk over to them, and this guy from the navigator on the team, he's like, Josh, he's like, dude, he's like, we almost stoned you. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, we went down the mountain and we realized that was wrong. And we didn't go all the way to Santa Barbara, but we almost got there. So we came back up and we saw this cutout, and we walked out here and we saw these aluminum pods on the ground, and we thought you were aliens. We walked up with you with rocks. We were going to smash you guys because we thought you were aliens. And I'm like, well, shit, man, I'm glad you didn't do that. And anyway, they ended up deciding to sleep as well. And short of it is that we ended up racing the next 20 hours with them or something until we hit the finish, and ended up, we had to go to Santa Barbara. We were out of water. We realized, once we realized where we were, we realized we had to go down the mountain and get water and then just suffer all the way for the rest of the day. But the moral of the story there is that such a inconsequential temperature ended up being a very freaking cold night, and we were lucky that we were all in good health and could tolerate it. But if somebody would have been injured and we would have had to leave them and come back, you just don't know what sort of shock the body can go into. And in that case, we were actually not very well prepared. We had a safety blanket, but we would have never thought we would stop and sleep. It was only a 38-hour race, so we didn't do that. We did because all the other options weren't good. So, because we ended up adding like 30 miles of mountain biking to that course as a result of having to descend to Santa Barbara and go up a different route. But so anyway, yeah, I think carrying at least a safety blanket, and honestly, you should probably carry like the $10 version versus the 58-cent version, like a bivy bag. The bivy bag is, maybe it's $20 now, but they're awesome and they're way safer and a little more durable and reusable for that matter. So. In case you have to use it a couple times in a race, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. People should definitely carry a bivy if you're running any sort of long distance event, whether it's running or cycling, mountain biking, adventure racing, whatever. It can't hurt to have it on you. Yeah. It's also just amazing how, if you were in that same predicament today, you could use an app like Gaia to more easily figure out where you're at on the map. So, those navigation tools have come a really long way too, which is great.
Well, yeah, in adventure racing, you can't use GPS.
Oh, you can't at all.
No, that's why it's harder. Yeah, I just did a 12-hour adventure race with my son, 14-year-old son, his first time ever, and we kicked it, man. We just did it right here locally by our house 2 weekends ago, and same thing. Yeah, that sport's never changed. There are some races that will allow a GPS navigation category just because I think it's a big barrier to entry if you don't have somebody that's an experienced navigator via map and compass. That's just a hard thing to learn. It takes a lot of time. So I think that's why they've kind of opened that up a little bit. But yeah, most of them are still the same. Yeah, you got to plot the coordinates on the map, and you're just navigating via map and compass. It's I think for all the trail runners out there, it's something you ought to look into Uh, One of the hardest parts of trail running is that it's a mental game, and you just have to you'll focus on a blister or something. Adventure racing, you don't usually spend a lot of time thinking about that. It's more of like you're just trying to figure out where you are, how you're trying to get to your next destination. You're not just running on a trail, and it's psychologically it's a benefit, because if you know you have to run on this trail for the next 100 miles, that kind of sucks. Where it's nice when you know, okay, we're going to run probably 100 miles today, but we don't know how we're going to get from point A to point B. We know it's that way, but we can make our choice. We can run on a trail. We can bushwhack, and maybe we shorten it to 85 miles or something, but it's going to be bushwhacking that could be longer, but it could be shorter. Or we could run 120 miles and take the long way around, but maybe that'll be faster. So that's where the sport is perfect for trail runners, because you already like adventure. And when you want something that challenges you even more, it's an incredible sport.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that as like a way to become a better navigator, because I feel like every ultra runner gets asked, "Are you ever going to do the Barkley?" And it's like, well, unless I learn how to navigate, the answer is no.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's a big difference. And once you learn how to read map and compass, it makes you feel pretty invincible when you're in the outdoors. It makes you feel calm. You can drop me anywhere and I can find my way out, and it's a very comforting feeling to know that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so if we blindfold Josh and put him in the back of a van and drive him somewhere, he'll figure out how to get home.
It's happened. Well, kind of. Yeah, we did.
It's happened?
Yeah, well, it wasn't with a blindfold, but it was in a bus. I did a race in Moab years ago, and they took off from Moab, and they took us out like, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours west and dropped us off in the desert, and then we took off for 92 hours of fun.
Wow.
It was wild. We ended up running about 100 miles and biked, I think, 60. We kayaked for 58. We swam for 8. We had to run the first, I think it was around 30 miles in the desert with a horse. We had a horse named Macaroni. All the teams, they gave the horse just to make it added chaos. And yeah, it was fun.
A horse named Macaroni.
Yeah, he was slow as hell too. It was so frustrating, and we just put our packs on him and just drug him.
If I ever write an album, I'm gonna name it that.
Mm-hmm. A horse named Macaroni. Yeah, man.
Yeah, right.
That's a perfect campfire acoustic guitar song.
Yeah, right. My gosh. Okay, so we got a bit off topic. I was about to start asking you about orange mud and stuff.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, so I think where we left off on that topic was you were training for St. George. There was, you were tired of like the packs in the industry. So like, what happened from there? Because, if I had to guess, even if hypothetically I wanted to start a brand that created, technical outdoor sportswear like vests and hydration packs and, clothing the way that you guys have, I just find it wildly impressive, because even if I or someone else has that idea, turning those technical products into reality has got to be incredibly challenging for a lot of reasons. I mean, how do you turn that idea into something real? I imagine there's like a million obstacles in the way. Like, you must have been super motivated to actually get that done.
Yeah, there's a lot of obstacles. One is money. I mean, it takes a lot just to get things off the dang ground. And, you first have to be a product designer, and then you have to be a Facebook ad expert. And that in itself is a monster. But yeah, when it came to building the first prototype, my background is manufacturing. I actually used to run a big CNC machining company and specialize in med devices and defense, and I have helped to bring tens of thousands of products to market over the years. And when it comes to manufacturing, I understand it probably better than most people you'll ever meet. And I mean, I spent 15 years in the industry and working with all these crazy engineers and having an amazing team of machinists that worked with me, and so we made fun stuff. And so for me, going into building a backpack, I thought, this will be easy. This is cake, but it was not. And because it's a parallel, but it's apples and avocados. I mean, it's very, very, very different. And so my biggest struggle out of the gate is that I build it out of a gun holster, a tie-down strap, and a waist pack, and a hotel sewing kit, and some staples. and glue, and that's how I built the first prototype. Kind of conjured up in the garage, and it worked awesome, but it looked like it was worth like 58 cents. And so I went down this path of contacting manufacturers, and no one would respond to me. I think I reached out to, if I remember right, it was 43 companies that I found in the United States. Most of them are in California and New York, a couple in Arizona. That's just where all the manufacturers are in soft goods. And there's plenty of people that wouldn't touch me because they're like t-shirt companies, you know, and you'll find they're all siloed. Like a backpack company doesn't make t-shirts. A t-shirt company doesn't make backpacks. But there aren't very many backpack companies. And then back in the day, and still, to find these people, you're talking about some of the most antiquated websites on the planet. These things are barely most are barely running anything above a DOS-based website. And even calling the fabric suppliers. You need to understand fabrics. And that's a whole other animal in itself. Like, you can find somebody who makes stuff, but then you got to figure out the dang fabrics. People are like, what kind of fabric are you using? I'm like, I don't know. This black one? It looks like this. I don't know. And so that ended up being a giant learning curve too. So yeah, I ended up contacting all these people. I couldn't get anybody to call me back. I ended up hiring a local seamstress. She made wedding dresses. She was like 80 years old and really, really nice. And I talked her into helping me. I went and met her at her sewing shop in Corona, and she probably wasn't 80, probably 70. I mean, she was a much older lady, but she was like, she appreciated my passion and energy behind it, and she's like, I'll help you, and charged me $1,000 or something, I don't know. And I was just happy to pay somebody to do it because I did not have the sewing skills at the time. And so she got me a rough concept. It wasn't pretty, but it was more, it was what I needed visually. And then from there, I got lucky. I found some dude, I don't remember how I found him, and he made me a tech pack. Having the tech pack was the piece that allowed me to be a perceived valuable interest. Because without that, when I'm sending pictures to these people, I'm sure they get people to do that all the time. You know, yo, I'm a trail runner, I got this idea, it's cool, will you make it? And they're like, no, because you're not going to actually ever do this. And I get that. You know, we have people do that in my 7-Clay business all the time, like, you know, coming at us, I'm going to build this brand, I'm going to buy 1 million hats. I'm like, cool, that'd be great, but I need to start with one. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're probably never going to buy 1 million. Because we hear it from, you know, every day. Well, once I had a tech pack, all of a sudden I was perceived to be a business. And then I got a little more traction. I had people telling me, like, we don't want your work because you're probably not going to buy enough. And then I had one guy tell me, we don't want to make this for you because you're going to go to China because that's what everybody does. And I was like, no, man, I want to do American made. That's my whole plan. And I did for the first 3 years. No one ever gave me credit for it. I mean, not like retail or the industry ever really cared, which, you know, it was a hard learning curve to realize, you know, everybody talks about American made, but no one really cares. It's really sad that that's the case. But I ended up getting a random connection through my buddy Joe. He knew a guy that built backpacks as a prototyper, and he hooked me up. And I ended up going and working with him, and he's the one that really helped me to get my idea into reality. And then he connected me with my first factory, and that factory wasn't very good. He connected me with the second one, and that's where everything started, and that's where everything was allowed to blossom. Because now I have a prototyper. I've got 2 factories, which led to actually 3 in Southern California, and then we were able to scale from there. And I learned how to sew. I learned that was a limit that I needed to figure out. And so I bought an industrial sewing machine. I started building my own prototypes, and they weren't perfect for a long time. I had to become a Photoshop expert because I needed to Photoshop what I actually wanted versus what I actually sewed. But it allowed me to start reducing some of that time to market because I could get a prototype that was close, Photoshop it, get a prototype in from the factory, and then Photoshop and make some sewn adjustments and kind of work to getting that forward momentum. So yeah, it's a hard industry.
Yeah, it seems like it. My gosh, I'm thinking of my mom. Maybe she'll listen to this episode.
Yeah.
She's trying to. Her name's Isabel, so she started a company called Izzy's Essentials to basically make formal attire for like young women.
Sure.
But as you could imagine, she went through all those very similar learning curves about like learning fabrics and figuring out manufacturing, and I've just heard the slow grind and story of her journey to bringing an idea to the actual market over the last few years, and it just
Sure.
sounds like an overwhelming space to be in.
It's tough. Yeah, yeah. There's a million challenges, but I've always. I mean, I think that's where it ties into endurance sports. Though you just put one foot in front of the other, and you just keep doing it, and problems are going to happen. You're going to have blisters, you're going to have cramps, you're going to get sick, you're going to feel like crap, you're going to feel great, and then it's going to happen all over again. And that's basically what business is. It's just a never-ending fight. But if it was easy, everybody'd do it, I guess. But yeah, it's crazy too, because once we got going, I realized that my biggest limit was Facebook advertising, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even use Facebook until then. I don't think, or maybe I barely did, but that was a giant investment of my time. I'm talking like the first year. That's all I did was Facebook advertising, and it was great. I mean, I'd have my wins and I'd have my losses, but over the years I'm definitely an expert with Facebook. I've been an expert and an idiot because Facebook changes how they work. So, you'll be an expert for a number of years, and then all of a sudden they'll change something, and you're back on idiot status again, and then you've got to work to be an expert again. And right now I'm on the expert side. I'm waiting for them to change stuff to be an idiot again. But
so when you first started, did you have like one specific pack that you were selling? Or did you have like a variety, was it just start with one and then expand, or did you have a bunch at the beginning, or how did that go?
Yeah, so I started with the Hydro Quiver or single barrel pack, which we still make to this day, and it's barely changed. I mean, I think we're on version 4 or something, but we haven't changed it for years. But yeah, I didn't have a plan. I mean, I had a plan to build one thing, and then afterwards I told my wife, I'm like, well, this is pretty cool. I'm not sure I'm smart enough to make something else. and then I launched the transition wrap, our change towel and seat cover. So the Hydro Quiver, we started in January 2012, but it took 10 months to get the Hydro Quiver to market, so we launched in October. And then I launched the transition wrap in February of 13. And that's ultimately what put us on the map. We were Runner's World Gear of the Year that year with that product, and that really helped to get more of a household name going. But it also gave me some faith, like, all right, well, we got a couple products here. Hydro Quiver is a totally different product, and it's really hard to educate people as to how to wear something that's different than everything else on the market, and to why. And because it's bottle based, it was in the back at the time. Everybody was putting bottles up front, and so that took some product education, even though it shouldn't, because you don't go hiking with a backpack on your chest. But it's at the time that's what people did. So people are like, well, everybody puts bottles on the chest. I'm like, but should they? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, you can still reach it. It's right here. Can you touch the back of your head? If you can touch the back of your head, you can touch the bottle. That's where the bottle is. If you can scratch the back of your head. So once we got that first Hydro Quiver on the market, we got the transition wrap going. Then we started getting all this customer feedback. We added our ambassador team. We started getting a lot of ambassador feedback, like, hey, we need pockets. We need a 2-bottle system. Are you going to make a bladder pack? I had people tell me, look, I think your bottle packs are funny looking. He's like, I remember one guy was like, dude, I love your packs. I won't wear it in public though because I'm embarrassed. I'm like, yeah, because of the bottles in the back. He's like, yeah, I just don't like it. I'm like, okay, well, fair enough. He's like, if you make a bladder pack, I'm first in line. So I, as a mountain biker, I always wanted a bladder pack too. So I launched our endurance pack, and that has been wildly popular in every sport, in gravel and Ironman and mountain. I mean, you name it, because it's 2 liters, which is really the sweet spot for most endurance sports. And and then we just kept growing it from there based upon what my needs were at the time. Was I mountain biking? Was it cold where I was, or hot? I remember.
I remember the first time I saw one of those your guys' packs with like the bottles on the back. I was like, whoa, that looks like a jet pack.
Yeah, exactly.
I was at Bighorn, and it was, I don't know if you know him, the guy who finished the Barkley, John Feggy Veresi. Yeah, he was wearing that at Bighorn, and I was like, whoa, that's an interesting pack.
Yeah. Yep.
He was a fun guy to chat with too.
Sure.
But yeah, good times. You created Orange Mud, though. You said you founded it in 2012. I imagine that the industry has changed quite a lot since then. I mean, I think back to 2012. I'm like, I was in high school. I had probably just read Ultramarathon Man. I was reading Anton's blog, Riding the Wind, every week. Yeah. Dreaming of one day living in Colorado. I'm from New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just with the idea of running 100-mile races.
Sure.
But, obviously, a lot has changed even since, I was just a spectator of the sport back then. I'm wondering from, the industry perspective that you have, like what are the biggest changes that you've seen? Because obviously, I mean, most obviously, there's like a lot more brands.
Yeah,
there's a lot more gear. There's also a lot more people to buy from the many more options that are available.
Sure.
But I feel like that's kind of too obvious of like a perspective. Like what have you seen that's a bit like nittier, grittier on your end?
Yeah, I mean, so the industry's changed an incredible amount. I mean, at the time, for that first, I would say 6, 7, maybe 8 years, it was trail running was just exploding, and it went from a little fringe, it's like this race we've been putting on. There's been normally 30 people, so now we're getting 300, and it was that sort of stuff where it was just all these little fringe races started to become. I mean, ultimately it was still fringe, I guess, compared to a marathon. But I mean, they really blew up, and they were maxing out the area that they were using to be able to run, which was great to see all these people leaving roads and going to trails, and obviously the pro scene was huge there for a while, and we didn't dabble much in it. We worked with some of the pros. But I've always spent more time focusing on the everyday athlete. It's what I care about, getting everybody outside on dirt. That's just my goal in life, right? But when in the beginning, yeah, Antoine and all those guys, I mean, man, there was a lot of money going around with bringing in pros, and then it was probably around 2017, 18, 19 that all just stopped. And a lot of the pros were just, sorry, we don't care about you anymore. It was really a tragedy. I mean, I feel bad for a lot of those guys that are building livelihoods out of it, and then it just seemed the industry just realized, like, hey, we can't afford this. This industry is growing, and it's doing great, but it's not big enough that you have Nike budgets. And I think that's where a lot of brands kind of hit some walls with that side. And where, again, it didn't really hurt us because we didn't employ pros per se, and we've sponsored some, with some various things, but that was a big change up. Like out of nowhere, it just seemed like the whole industry shifted in like 17, 18, somewhere in there, to be more just grassroots again. But yet it wasn't grassroots; it was too big for that, and it kept growing. So it kind of became this weird playground. But in terms of the brands. The brand explosion has been over the last, I would say, just 3 or 4 years. The amount of brands out is crazy. It is absolutely crazy. I don't know how that's going to work out. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I started, there was maybe 4 of. I relate a lot of things to the industry running event. It's called the running event. It's for all retailers in December every year. And I've been there. This was my 14th year, and in the beginning, it was myself, Ultraspire. I think they started around a similar time. UD, maybe there was a couple others, and that's pretty much how it was for years. And then all of a sudden, one day, like 3 or 4 years ago. There was like 40. I mean, I'm not even kidding. And this year, I can't even tell you how many brands were there. Now, a lot of them are like, Nike kind of seems to come and go with a backpack. They're like, yeah, here's an idea that we have. But I think they've always, I'll just put it as they're rounding it out. And if I was a big brand like Nike and Rabbit and Adidas or whatever these other big brands are that come up with backpacks, I get why they're doing it. I mean, I would do the same thing too. If I was a marketing manager, I'm like, hey, let's make a backpack. We'll copy one of these guys and just have something so we have our brand in the photos. Because I'm sure that was probably the bigger piece of why some of these big brands are even doing it. Because it seems like every major brand has a backpack now. But I think they just wanted to not have whatever hydration backpack in their photos. And so I'm sure that's probably some of it versus like, are they making a valiant effort to innovate and to do something different, or are you just taking some pack from China that some China factory is like, hey, we make backpacks. Like I could order a billion backpacks, copy anybody on the market just from ordering from some China knockoff. I mean, they message. Every morning I wake up to 10, 20 spam emails from some China factory like, hey, you want that pack? I'm like, oh yeah, there's Solomon's pack, there's my pack, there's somebody else's pack. But that's where I'm sure probably some of these brands have taken that approach. But yeah, it's something that as far as innovating in the space, I don't feel there's been much innovation from a lot. There's a lot more brands that have packs, but not a lot of innovation. And it's just another stretchy pack is what it is. And how that's going to shake out, God only knows. I really don't know. I hope it doesn't kill me. I mean, we're small. We're most of these big beasts in the business. They're VC companies. There's very few people that husband and wife pay the bills, and that's the way we are. It's my wife and I. We own it. We've always been that way, and it's been the plan all these years. And but Nike and all those big guys, they got big budgets. They got big money, and it just is what it is. So yeah.
What's it been like? How's being a family man impacted your ability to, I don't know if ability is the right word, but just how's that made you a better entrepreneur?
Yeah, because you have to survive, I guess.
I guess so, extra stress.
Yeah. I mean, it's the coolest parts. The coolest parts of owning your own business is that you work all the time, but you have the ability to stop and when you need to. And like my son's track meet this week, I left here at 4:30 and I was there till 10, and that's just okay. If I was working for the man, I wouldn't have those opportunities. So there's a lot of awesome stuff like that. I mean, just honestly, being able to do that adventure race with my son 2 weeks ago was incredible. He was using he used my original prototype for the Adventure Pack 12 liter, or it was like version 3, but it was one no one ever saw. It was this gray version I never made, and it was just cool. I'm like, man, you're using a prototype I built 8 years ago or something, and it's so cool to be able to do that, with your kids, but for sure, it's teaching them lessons of what it's like. And like my son right now, he wants to build a Facebook ad management company, and I'm like, you're 14, like focus on track and soccer and just enjoy it. But he's constantly, like, Dad, I want to do a business, I want to do this, and he, he's like a TikTok influencer and makes some money doing that. And it's neat to see. I think he sees I'm always, working to grow my businesses and grow smartly and concretely with plans, and he's trying to do that same thing. And I think that's probably one of the coolest parts about it is you see the influence of, if you're trying to do things right, doesn't always mean you're going to be successful, but if you're trying to do things right, hopefully your kids are going to follow you in the same steps and whatever it may be. So yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it must be very fulfilling to see that, your son has taken on the same kind of ambitions that, you had when you were younger, starting a business.
Yeah.
I mean, being 14 and having that kind of ambition is super impressive. And also just the opportunities that, high schoolers have today is so much different and greater than it was when I was younger. I mean, there was opportunity when I was like younger, but not the same way, I feel like, where you couldn't be a TikTok influencer when I was in high school.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't even have a smartphone until I was in college.
Yeah, exactly. No, the game has changed, and who knows where it's going to go. But right now, the game has changed a lot.
Yeah. Well, what's it been like, switching, not careers, because you manage 2 companies, but what's it been like to go from Orange Mud to Seven Clay? And what was your motivation to do that? Because I mean, it's not like you stepped down from Orange Mud. You're doing 2 jobs, 2 businesses now at once. Is that double the stress? I know it's still like the same space kind of. So yeah, could you talk a little bit about like what Seven Clay does and what that transition has been like?
Yeah. So yeah, we customized the transition wraps, embroidered and screen print them for races and stores, and like we're in over 800 stores with the product, and over the years I outsourced the embroidery, and I was never happy with it. And once we moved our business to Texas, I despised the local vendors. They were terrible. The quality was terrible. Their service, they were rude. The prices were stupid. So I literally started Seven Clay simply to hurt them. That was my only goal. I told my wife, I was like, hey, I just spent $60,000 today. I'm gonna hurt some people. I'm gonna put them out of business. And I'm a very spiteful guy because I was outsourcing $250,000 a year in customization, and so that really upset me that I couldn't get anybody to take my business. If you came to me right now and you're like, hey, I have a toilet cleaning business, but I'm looking to outsource about $250,000 a year of it, I'd be like, I don't really want that business, but I would probably come up with a business model for that. I mean, and I couldn't even get most of these guys to return my calls. It was crazy. So we started Seven Clay out of frustration, which is kind of similar to Orange Mud, and then it just took off. From a resource side, the cool part about it is that obviously we were able to support our own demands for the Orange Mud side, but a lot of the races that I sponsored, they were like, well, hey, you have all this equipment. Can you make our shirts? Can you make our hats? And can you make whatever? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so there was a lot of parallel to that. Of course, we did it right before COVID. So like at the time, we had a record business. It was jamming. And then COVID happened. That was September of 19. And then COVID happened in February of 20. And like all the business went away. All of it. I mean, we had huge backlogs and all the races were eliminated. I'm like, well, that's not good. That's kind of a problem. But again, I had to fall back on what I knew, and I worked like a dog, probably 20 hours a day for a few months, getting the Facebook strategy built out for Seven Clay, and that's what ended up building up all this, what we have today, and it's still a big piece. So we had to just totally reinvent our business model, 5 months in. But yeah, the cool part about it though is between those and then I have a third business, Anvil and Acre. It's a CMO business. The nice part is I layer all these resources between everything. So it's actually been where in the beginning, yes, it was having a startup again was brutal, and that took an incredible amount of time. But now I have an incredible amount of people on my team that are experts in every division. I've got a Facebook ad manager, I've got a Google Ads manager, Amazon Ads manager, and a web developer, and SEO, and designers, and blog, and content, and social, and just on and on. And thanks to that, I have layers with everything, because Orange Mud will be slow at certain times a year, right? And then but Seven Clay will be busy, or Anvil and Acre has some new client. So it's been really fun, and I've realized, I think it took me a long time to realize this. I enjoy building the businesses, but I don't enjoy running them. So it robs you of all the fun. When you get that $500,000 $1 million inventory bill and you've got to figure out how to pay it, it's really freaking scary. And it was easier when we were small because a $20,000 bill was scary but doable. But all of a sudden you're like, God, do we really just cut a purchase order for $160,000, $200,000, $300,000, $500,000? It just kept going, and every time I'm like, man, I always relate everything to, if crap goes wrong, I can work at a bar. That's what I've always looked at, right? If like everything goes wrong, I can go work at a bar and make money. But you can't work at a bar and make enough money to pay $1 million note or $100,000 note. And so you hit a point of commitment after you get these, a business off the ground where, payroll every 2 weeks is scary to me. Still, I don't like it. I prefer to just not look at it. But I love everybody on my team. I'm more than happy to pay them, but I don't like, that I can't even think about it. I just block it out. I'm like, you know what? We just got to make sure we can make enough money to pay everybody, and I have money in the bank in case we don't make enough money to be able to pay everybody. So yeah, it's an absolute monster, but it's fun, and that's why I've got awesome people on my team that help me to run the business, so I don't have to be in the day-to-day weeds as much.
Yeah, man. That's it's been super cool hearing your journey. I have a few more questions for you. I know we talked about capping this at about an hour, so I want to be respectful of your time. But I do have a few more quick questions. One of them is, I'm super interested in knowing, like, where did the name Orange Mud come from, and where did the name, like, Seven Clay come from, because they're really clever names.
Sure, I appreciate it. Well, so yeah, my son, when he was born, we were leaving the hospital, and the nurses were like, well, what are you going to name him? And I was like, Clay. And my wife's like, no, that's a stupid name. And so we named him Jax. But Clay is my middle name, and I always thought it was cool, and I just thought it'd be neat to have somebody that had it so they could actually use it as a first name. But when I started this, he was 3 months old, and I said, hey, I'm going to start a business. It's probably going to cost $50,000. Worst case, we're going to have 2 backpacks worth $25,000 each, perfectly designed for us. And by the way, my name's going to be in it. And she's like, whatever. And so we hadn't slept in 3 months, so she's like, whatever. And so I went on GoDaddy and I bought 43 domain names that night. And Clay, which is a mud, as I was drinking glasses of wine and buying domain names, Clay, which is a mud, and it's gray, but sometimes it's orange. That's how Orange Mud came about. And then Clay, I wanted to have it all centered around like dirt, earth. I love trail, I love dirt, and then my birthday's in July, and I like to have domains that people can spell, because I see some of these brands and it just irritates me when I find a brand. I'm like, God, that's a cool brand, but man, what a stupid name. Like I'm never going to be able to spell that, or I'm never going to remember it. And so for me, I'm like, I want it stupid simple where everybody can spell it. And so my birthday being in July, it's always been a lucky birthday, and 7-11. So I thought, you know what? 7 Clay, that's going to be fun, and people can spell that. And then the irony is that all the time people misspell Orange Mud. They put 2 D's on it. I'm like, Mud always has 1 D. The only 2 D's is like a makeup brand or something. I don't even know what they are, but it's always fascinating. Is Mud with 1 D or 2? I'm like, 1, just like mud. I tell people it's like orange, like fruit, and it's mud, like mud. They're like, 2 D's? I'm like, no, 1 D, dude. And then 7 Clay, same thing. I'm like, 7, S-E-V-E-N, Clay, C-L-A-Y, like the mud. And then people are like, cool, like the number 7. I'm like, no. So just when you thought of it all, you're still wrong, but at least you got a 50-50 chance of getting it right. So, yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I thought about like making my website like CoachStefanschuster.com or something. I'm like, but people can't spell Stefan. They think it's Steven or Stefan. I'm like, how are they going to spell the website right if I do that?
Yeah.
That was part of the reason.
Yep.
But yeah. Well, Josh, I'm super happy we can make this happen. You actually, for anyone who's listening, Josh reached out to me, and I'm very appreciative that you did, because this has been a really fun conversation. I want to commend you for a few things. First of all, like your story has been really interesting. Your proactiveness in reaching out, I think that means a lot to me. I feel bad my communication to you has been not too great the last month with coaching a few extra people and running a 100-miler, traveling for 3 out of 4 weeks in February. It was hectic, but Josh was patient with me, so I appreciate you for that. I also appreciate your determination as an entrepreneur to like make your dreams become a reality. And what I imagine, we kind of touched on it. It's a pretty difficult business to, step into the door of and make it happen. So I'm really impressed by you and everything that you've accomplished.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
Before we get going, I have I do want to let people give you the chance to give your social media handles out and stuff. But I have one more question for you before that.
Sure.
Because this is the Journey Running Podcast, I want to know what is a journey that you've been on in your life, whether that's a journey run, an adventure race that you've been on, a life event, whatever it is. I'm wondering, what is a journey that you've been on, and what did that journey teach you?
Yeah, I think one of the coolest ones, and it's like a whole nother story, but the high level is my son and I and my buddy, we were on an adventure down by the border of Mexico, or on the border of Mexico and Texas last year, or 3 years ago, and basically we were on the beach, and our boat blew off the beach, and we were looking for arrowheads, and in the middle of the day, it was hot on this lake, and my boat blew off, and I saw it, and it wasn't blowing that fast. And I'm a 2-time Ironman. I swam a lot. I'm like, I hadn't swam in 7 years, but I thought, I can still swim a couple 100 meters pretty quick. And so I stripped down my boxers and told my buddy and Jax to stay on the beach. I said, I'll be right back. I'll go get the boat. And next thing you know, I ended up swimming for 3 or 4 hours, and they thought I died, and then I thought they died because I couldn't find them once I finally did get across the lake and got the boat, and this crazy storm blew in. And ended up being kind of a wild deal, like search and rescue was and like human tracking dogs, but we all, my buddy Jay and Jax and myself, we had these amazing journeys of probably some self-discovery. and deep soul searching and just focusing on positivity, unknowing. And then, but one of the coolest parts about it, I think, was despite the fear that my son and my buddy might have died, and then of course they thinking I died, is throughout the night thinking, all right, systematically, what do we need to do to be able to find them? And they were trying to go get help, but we were way back in a long ways from anything. And so they spent all night trying to get out and to get help, and I spent all night trying to find them with 70 search and rescue people. And but one of the coolest parts about it is that you learn a lot about yourself in that moment where I just knew it was only a positive path, right? I mean, obviously, shoot, I still get a little nervous or teary thinking about it, but it was only a positive path. And one of the coolest parts about spending all the time in the woods like I have in all the years and doing racing and whatever is that you learn a lot about how to get out. And my plan that night was that I knew where I last saw them on the beach, and I knew there was some red blinking lights on these towers way off in the distance, and I knew that my buddy would go for the towers because that was the only point of navigation they had. They had no phones or anything. I had everything in the boat. And so I set a coordinate on the map and on Google Maps, and I said, man, they should intersect here. And of all the search and rescue people out there, I was the one that ended up finding them the next day at 7 a.m. Based upon my search grid. And to the point where I think the search and rescue guys thought I was maybe pulling a hocus pocus on them or something because it was a big cartel drug running area. I'm guessing they were thinking there was something fishy. I don't know, but it all worked out and everybody survived. But it was that I think never-ending fight of battling adversity, but always looking ahead with a positive mindset that worked. And I'll never forget when I saw them. My buddy Jay's like, "You're dead." I'm like, "No, dude, I'm alive." He's like, and Jack's my son. I'm like, "Dude, you think I drowned?" He's like, "I gave you a 40-60 chance, Dad." I'm like, "What are you talking about? You've seen, I've almost been swept up by tornadoes. I mean, I've defied the odds for so many times. You think I'm going to drown going swimming across the lake?" And then he was like, "It was a big lake, Dad." I'm like, "Well, you're right about that." But I think it's just that moral of life. You just have to constantly focus on being positive, and then positive things will happen. I couldn't believe I saw them.
Yeah.
They thought they saw a ghost and vice versa. So yeah, I think that's one of the coolest parts is just staying positive. No matter what it is, conviction and positivity will get you a long ways.
Man, I love it. That's a great note to end on. Man, I feel like you probably have, we could probably do multiple episodes just on the stories you have, it sounds like.
I got a lot of wild
But that's a great message to leave off on.
Yeah.
Before we finish up, I want to make sure you have a moment to give people your social media handles, let people know where they can follow you.
Sure.
What can they expect from you going forward over the course of this next year or so?
Sure. Yeah. It's check us out at orangemud.com. Orange like the fruit, mud MUD, and at 7 Clay, 7 like the 7 spelled out in clay. And as far as what's going on, lots of growth, lots of fun things. So new packs, new workout accessories, more branding, more fun stuff. So yeah, check us out. We have a lot of fun stuff, and we're always happy to help people. And if anybody's ever curious, you can always call our phone numbers and actually talk with humans. We actually have, like, my wife answers the phone for Orange Mud, and which is not common anymore. But yeah, you can actually call and talk to a human, and people are always shocked. Like, is this AI? And they're like, no, it's a real human. Like, what can I help you with? So, well, I'm looking for a pack, and I'm the real big guy, or I'm a real little person, and we can help steer that path. But yeah, we just love to get people outside. We like make people happy. That's the whole goal of our business.
That's awesome. I love it. Get people outside.
Yep.
There's no better mission out there, really.
I agree, man. Every day.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Josh. This was awesome. I know this is going to be a great episode for people to listen to. They're going to learn a lot. You got a lot of great stories in here. Anyone who's listening, comment your favorite part when the episode's over, and would love to read about it.
Appreciate
But thank
it.
you so much for being here, Josh. This was awesome.
Thanks, man. Dig it.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. I hope you were able to come away with valuable information that can help you run farther, feel smarter, and develop character through trail and ultra running. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do remember to like, rate, subscribe, and review the show. I would really appreciate it. Also, if you or anyone you know is looking for a registered dietitian or coach to help you crush your goals in 2026, you can reach out to me at journeyruncoaching.com or via email at journeyrunningsllc@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for taking your time to listen, and have a great rest of your day.